Well, so you've got the ribs. You talked a little bit about the back.
Yeah,
Next part's the top.
The tops are made out of spruce. Spruce is a very, 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 very light wood. This weighs nothing. This is unbelievable. This is like probably float. This is very, very, very light wood. It's book matched also. This is made out of two pieces. This piece of spruce here was cut down in 1954 on the northeast side of a hill at an elevation over 4,000 feet. Now, the reason that that's cool is because the grain on every single year is virtually identical. The higher the elevation, and if you go on the northeast side of the hill, the weather never changes. And so it gets the same amount of sunlight, same amount of rain, same amount of everything. And so you don't get these big mineral marks. You can see in this one some mineral marks, but they'll disappear as soon as I put the finish on it. But it also has what's called a cross chatter. This piece of wood grew very, very, very slowly, and it has these marks across it, which means the tree was kind of moving a little bit. Must have been in a windy part of things. These are sort of like stretch marks that people get when they get overweight. When the tree starts moving, it'll start stretching the grain apart, and it makes these little ripples. That's where curly maple comes from all you guys that are violin players or whatever. Now, what I was going to show is that what this sounds like. This is a tuning fork, and you put a tuning fork on this piece of wood, you see it has virtually no sound at all, right? No, you can hear a little bit of difference or whatever. This little bit of difference I fixate on this little bit of difference. I take every piece of wood before I build a guitar, and I set it over in the corner, and I study it. You know, how limber is it? You know, how does it sound? You know, so I'll tap on it, beat on it, listen to it. You know, listen to it hanging up. You know, that kind of bass sound to it. Okay. When I get through bracing it, all that's going to come out. So the bracing that goes under the underneath side of the top is probably the most important thing. And I don't have an example to show you, except this one. This is one I got really mad at. And so I took a hammer and whacked the side of it and pulled it off the top in a temper fit.
That was actually on his dining room table the last time I was over.
I've studied this top. I get fixated about it too, wondering why it was so bad. And this is not a good example, but this is called the Martin invented this X brace. This X brace is where the strength of the guitar comes in. Right here at this point, there's about 600 pounds of pressure on the guitar. And then this down here has to be free to vibrate to allow the guitar to vibrate and to make the sound, to make the tone that it's going to have. These are called the bass bars. And what these are made out of, how thick they are, how this is what's called a scalloped brace. It's carved out, dished out. If I take one of these and I start carving on that wood, it'll change the tone of this guitar immensely, just by how much you carve out of that and how much is missing from it. These over here tend to reflect the trebles, and so where you put these, I can move this brace over 1/4 of an inch, and it'll make a difference in how the guitar sounds. All of this is very, very critical, and so I've been working on a theory for where to put these braces and how to brace them and what to make it out of. This is made out of maple. This is what's called the reinforcing plate. The pins that go through the bridge will come right through here. The bridge, brought a bridge. The bridge will set right here on the guitar, and so underneath it will be this reinforcing plate. And so this reinforcing plate will go up and down with the bridge, and it just reinforces it so that on both sides of the wood both sides of the guitar you have a big block of wood there to move the top up and down. It's sort of like having a diaphragm. It's sort of almost like a diaphragm or a fulcrum that you're basically moving pressure on it. And so if this is on an angle, it moves the pressure one way. If it's straight, it moves another way. If it's rosewood, it makes one sound. If it's maple, it has another sound. When I'm building a guitar for somebody who does boom, ching, ching music, they want a lot of bass and they just kind of chord it or whatever, then I'll use rosewood and I'll put it on there straight. If I'm building it for a finger picker, somebody who wants mid-range tones to it, I'll put out a maple and I put it on an angle like that. But I've been experimenting for years on this design and where to put these braces. So it's not uncommon for me to build a guitar, put the top on there, not finish it, but string it up and listen to it, and then take it apart, put it back together again, take it apart, put it back together again until I get it the way I want it. So I've been experimenting with this and the different types of wood to use. I can tell you that trash can cypress works really good for these two bass bars. So this, now what's happened to it, let me get over here, and even though this is a piece of scrap, and even though the big pieces of it are missing, now listen to what happened. Okay, so not much here. Hold on. My jack is screwing this. Now you see how we got a little bit more sound to it. Everybody hear the difference? And so now I fixate on this.
Now, what kind of glue do you use?
Elmer's.
Okay.
That's what all guitar makers make them out of, either Elmer's or hide glue. I prefer Elmer's. The thing that's good about Elmer's glue is it's water soluble and it's not heat tolerant. So if you leave the guitar in your car and your guitar gets up to 130 degrees or 40 degrees and it's ready to explode, the bridge will pop off of the guitar and save the guitar. I can always put the bridge back on. But if you glue that guitar with some modern tech, high-tech plastic glue, that bridge is going to stay on there till that guitar explodes. And so I'd rather build them out of Elmer's, because Elmer's will just come apart if it needs to. If it needs to come apart, it comes apart.
And why Elmer's versus hide glue?
Hide glue, hide glue. You have to heat it up, and basically it's very, very brittle. And for no reason, it'll come apart. I mean, it'll just get humidity in it and whatever. A lot of great violins are made out of hide glue, and for no reason, they'll just come apart. And so I'd rather use Elmer's, although nobody has a track record on 250 years of Elmer's yet. But once you build the top, you glue the top onto the back and the sides. And now comes the fun. This is when you get to start listening to it. This thing's killing me. And how it's going to sound. No, I don't want to do that. We'll do it on the knee. Now hear the difference?
Pretty amazing.
See, you can't even hear this. And then, it's amplifying it probably 1,000 times. Hear the difference? So what I do is I listen to this for a long time and I have this idea of what it's supposed to sound like. That guitar, when it's finished, will actually sound very, very good.
And how long has that been together in that form?
About a year. I've had it hanging up drying. So when it gets a finish on it, you're always trying to hit a moving target because when you finish it, it's going to sound a little bit different than it does now. But I can already tell you that guitar is going to be a monster when it's put together. It'll be very, very loud. It'll also be very mid-range. That'll be pretty good.